Excited to hear Dr. Russell Brewer talk today about a subject that I think a lot of us are very interested in, emotional support animals and what they can mean to us. And here's a little background about Dr. Brewer. He earned his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree from Kansas State University in 1986 and in 1996. She got my cheaters on.
Okay, it's okay. I just didn't want to age 10 years.
No, I know, right? I don't blame you. I feel the same. In 2000, he co-founded Care Animal Hospital of Pleasant Prairie with Dr. Rebecca Wilsey, established a practice built on compassionate, high-quality veterinary care, which precedes you coming here today. I've heard that so much about you in your practice. Dr. Brewer has completed advanced postgraduate training and holds professional accreditation in veterinary acupuncture, spinal manipulation, and canine rehab. He is also fear-free certified, reflecting his commitment to reducing fear, anxiety, and stress for patients while delivering exceptional medical care. Outside of work, he enjoys everything Disney. Go Disney. Cycling, computers, downhill skiing, fly fishing, hunting with his dogs, and gardening. Dr. Brewer, please come up and tell us all about what you have to share with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. That was probably more in the build-up than I've ever had. I kind of had to joke. I've had a couple clients in this week that they were like, "Oh, we're going to miss the dinner. We're so sorry we're not going to be able to see you." And like, we'd love to hear you speak. I'm like, that's an exam room thing, so I don't know. The techs are always trying to drag me out. They go, "You talk too long," so I'll try not to talk too long today. Many of you, or a few of you, may have heard me on the radio on WLIP on Tuesday mornings. If you haven't, I don't know that you're missing anything. But Linda had asked me to speak about emotional support dogs, and I sort of hijacked that into emotional support / therapy dogs and human-animal bond, because that is pretty much the crux of what we do as veterinarians and veterinary professionals is all about the human-animal bond. We wouldn't be doing our job if it wasn't for that. And specifically when we're talking about emotional support and therapy, we're usually talking about dogs. Now, emotional support animals, that's a huge thing. The airlines even have it like you can have your emotional support donkey. I have no idea how that would work on a plane, but I've read through one of the airline lists. I'm going, okay, I guess if you want to have a donkey on your plane, but most of the times we're talking about dogs, and honestly, dogs don't just live with us; they change us. Any of you that don't have a cat, dog, or I would say even a fish, I'm sorry. You're missing out on probably one of the world's best kept secrets, although most of us that have pets don't keep it a secret. We love them. Probably walk around the parking lot and there's going to be bumper stickers or window stickers that say, "I love my dog," or "My dog rescued me." So they clearly make an impact on us. A therapy dog, so an emotional support dog is a dog that's designed to help us cope with life. Therapy dogs, on the other hand, are dogs that aren't trained for necessarily one person. They're dogs that could go into a nursing home, a hospital, a school. I've got a few clients that have therapy dogs. I was introduced to therapy dogs by Mary Domes, God rest her soul. She kind of spearheaded READ in the local school district. So they would group of people would take their ladies would take their dogs in and would sit down with the grade schoolers and read. So it is something that they break boundaries that we can't as people. So they're there to comfort us, calm us, and help us with our emotional support. The emotional support dogs clearly are there to help us with our anxiety. I don't know if you've ever sat with a cat in your lap, or sat with your dog in your lap. You're going to be a lot calmer. It actually causes your cortisol to go down, so they're great for stress. Studies have shown that we tend to live about 10 years longer if we have a dog in our life. So any of you that would like to live an extra 10 years and don't have a dog,
Get a dog.
there's plenty for adoption. They're not so therapy dogs and emotional support dogs are not the same. Clearly, One's just going in and helping out with people, the other one's your emotional support. And then there are service dogs, which is a whole nother level. And that is a dog that's specifically trained for a task. So we've got a handful of those. I have one patient that is a CNI dog. We've got one patient that is a seizure alert dog. The young lady in the house has seizures, and the dog alerts the other family members that she's about to have one. And those dogs have a really special job. It's not just something that, I mean, they're workhorses because they work 24 hours a day. Just, you know, eventually they wind up retiring and usually live with the family that they were with, but that's different. Why do we have them in our lives? This is because I always look at it because they make our life so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And I really think that the whole key of it is that we cheat that because they're our guides how we should live life. I've kind of come to the conclusion over 30 years of practicing that dogs and, well, pets as a whole are just examples for us how to live life. They don't get up every morning and go, okay, let's see, so I gotta go chase the squirrel. They don't have a to-do list, right? They just get up and they go like, all right, I gotta go to the bathroom, so you know, I gotta go outside, and then they come in and go, where's my food? Because I'm supposed to eat. And then, like my little Cavalier, she's always like, okay, so I've been out, I've had my food, I know I get my pills next, so she runs down to the kitchen to get her pills, and then I usually have to coax her to go back out because she usually has to go to the bathroom again. But they have a routine, and then she wants her cookie because she gets a cookie after all of that. And that is the little bit that we can do to repay her for just making our lives so much better. Physically, they will cause our blood pressures to reduce. They will reduce our stress hormones. They actually cause increased levels of oxytocin with the bond that we have with them, which is part of the reason that we develop such a special bond with them, because oxytocin is not the emotional hormone that we all get when we fall in love with somebody initially. That's dopamine. That's the same thing we get when we look at our phone. It's the same thing when we get if we go to the casino and we hit 32 red. It's just, and it's one of those things. Dopamine is very short acting. It makes you feel great, but it does not last. Oxytocin, on the other hand, is in your system and it will last. It's people that have long-lasting relationships, husbands and wives or friends, there's oxytocin involved in that, and it just keeps a more even keel, emotional appeal. And dogs and cats will allow that to happen, and it causes our heart rate to slow down, and it also reduce our anxiety. So they're an important part of our life. Again, I said if you don't have one, there's plenty out there to adopt. They're great for children. Children can learn responsibility, how to be responsible for another life. They're a great thing for us. Retirees, it's not a bad thing if you're retired to have a pet because there's a reason to get out of bed. If you don't, they'll let you know that there's a reason to get out of bed. And then it's just, and again, they just make our lives better. I just can't imagine a world without dogs. I'm going to say it was Will Rogers said that when I die, I want to go. He said if dogs aren't in heaven, I want to go where they are. Aww. So they're just that important. Now, what can we do as a community? Certainly, we can support our local shelters because there are lots of pets that need help. That doesn't mean that you have to go adopt a dog or adopt a cat. You could actually go and walk a dog. They certainly always need volunteers. You can, and they need supplies. They're always running fundraisers to try to get money and/or supplies. You can also, if you know somebody that has a therapy dog, you can try to introduce them into the hospital systems or school systems because the schools a lot of times if they have a traumatic thing happen. Colleges will have dogs come in during finals time and just walk around in the common areas so that students can stop and actually just pet a dog. So there are certainly things that we can promote as far as programs. And then, the reality is, you just hug your dog and it'll make things better. I guess in closing, I would just say therapy dogs remind us that healing doesn't always come from medicine. Sometimes it comes from forepaws, legs, and wagging tail, and unconditional love.
I do have two things. In our oncology practice where I work, we have therapy dogs that come in and just walk around and go over to the patient while they're receiving chemo, and they love it. And the one I'm thinking of, he's an Italian Mastiff. He's huge, but he comes over and he's like, it's just like, oh, you need love, don't you? And it just takes their mind off of the chemotherapy. My question for you is not related, but have you ever, in your practice and in your profession, found that when somebody brings in an animal, say, oh, we just got this new cat, or we adopted this dog, do you ever recognize them from somebody else who had them before? You know, like if they were like rehomed, or if they were lost and they got readopted?
No, but we do scan them if they say, like, I found this dog or I found this cat, and they come in, we will scan them for microchip. So
yeah.
there are microchip identifying chips that can be implanted into them when they're yours, and that's my highly recommended mode of keeping them identified permanently, because that doesn't go away. The microchips last for about 40 years, given that the oldest dog I've ever seen was 25. They should not outlast the microchip. Can happen. We do scan them on occasion, make sure that they're still working, because they can crack or something inside, and then then they stop working, they'll short out. But certainly, when somebody comes in and says, I've got a cat, I actually had one last year. The owner came in. She said, yeah, I found this cat when I was on vacation with my parents in Texas. I'm like, okay. Houston is not nearby. I said, well, so do you mind if we scan her for a chip? She said, no, go ahead. Scan her. Boop. Guess what? I've got a chip. I'm like, okay, so now we've got to chase this around to try to figure out. The cat had been missing for 6 years. Ironically, the owner was like, you know what? I've moved on. And if the cat has a good place to live, I'm okay with that. I'm like, cool, so we don't have to return the cat, because I'm thinking, oh, no. Usually it's one of those things. We had one that the family's on vacation in Tennessee, and we got a phone call, because they had not registered the microchip with their own stuff. It still had our information at the clinic on it, so we got a phone call at the clinic. It's these people in Tennessee going, yeah, so we've had this dog running around our property, and we took it into the shelter, and they scanned it, and it came up with an ID and your number's attached to it. I'm like, okay. Well, I looked it up in the system, going, yeah, they live here in Kenosha. I don't know how the dog got down there. So we called them, and I said, so we've got somebody on the phone that says that they've got your dog in Tennessee. They go, we're on vacation down here, and she ran away. Oh. Where is, so cross those lines, and they got their dog back. So it works. There's there's several million dogs and cats that have been reunited. So microchipping absolutely works. Doesn't stop anybody from stealing your cat or dog, which is a terrible thing. There's a warm place reserved for those folks. But that being said, microchipping is the way to go if you want a permanent ID.
Any other questions, ladies?
Do you have information for parents or patients to get therapy dogs or emotional support dogs or that? I have a lot of autistic patients, and I often will recommend trying to get one because of all the kids' anxiety and stuff.
Right. So the emotional support dog is kind of a unique critter, because there isn't really a certifying group that does, like, you want a CNI dog, that I know of, there are 2 groups that train CNI dogs in the country. You want a seizure alert dog, there are some groups that train service dogs. Therapy dogs, it's their own person usually. So they've got a dog, and Delta Society will certify that they're a therapy dog, and then they have to make sure that they're up to date on their health records and stuff, so that they can go into the schools and hospitals, nursing homes. But for emotional support dogs, that's a weird, like, sort of unregulated thing. Quite honestly, if they go get a dog, now the thing is, if you've got anxiety, don't go get a high-strung dog. You need to do some selecting to find the low key. And there's a great book out there called PAWS, which is PAWS, to consider, and it chronicles, I think it's 12 different categories. So whether or not you're a sports person or you're an apartment dweller, or so try to figure out what's my lifestyle,
Right.
and then given my lifestyle, what dog fits in that? Because if you live in an high-rise apartment in downtown Milwaukee, having a Labrador Retriever is probably not the best pick. Having a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel that is just content sitting on a couch all day long, better pick.
Breed wise, is there one that would be best or better for autistic children?
I really think it would depend on how the child would like, if it's big or small, right? Because big dogs can sometimes just be intimidating.
Right.
Medium-sized dogs, I think everybody's favorite is the Golden Retriever, because they're usually just goofy and no enemies, and which that's typical. Not always. Sometimes they're scared, and because that's what we know in Fear Free, that not everybody is free of anxiety. So there are even dogs that shouldn't have anxiety breed-wise will sometimes have a lot of anxiety. And that's something you just have to go through puppy selection to make sure if it's the shelter dog's probably not the best thing for adopting. I was thinking emotional support, like they usually have some emotional baggage. Emotional baggage doesn't always work with emotional support. Versus if you can start with a puppy and let them grow into the family, and you pick the nice, easygoing puppy that doesn't, care that you're there, not there, all those things. But Golden Retrievers are kind of they're not my personal favorite. My personal favorite is flat-coated retrievers, but that's because we've had, 8 or 9 of them in our lifetime. So, flat-coated retriever. They look like a skinny black Golden Retriever.
Just wondering, is there a lot of training involved to get a therapy dog certified? I have an Australian Labradoodle whose only goal in life is to be petted. But she also jumps a little bit, and I have a hard time getting her to... Right.
So the typical recommendation is usually that they go through obedience training and get their Canine Good Citizen certification. Because if they do that, then I think Delta Society also has some specific training requirements that because they basically certify once they go through all these steps that yes, they are a therapy dog. So a therapy dog can then go into grade schools, nursing homes, hospital settings.
Great.
To be an emotional support dog,
Yeah,
that's you get a note from your doctor that you need an emotional support animal, and it's now an emotional support animal, and it's not that hard.